All right, I believe we are live.
Should move this up.
Sure.
Do you have our song?
I didn't do any, because like Alex was talking about before we started, video games being addictive. I've been playing GTA 5 for like 3 days, 4 days, so I haven't done anything but that. I mean, I did some leaf raking in the yard.
Like raping?
Yeah.
Leaf raping. Raping the leaves around the leaves.
Everyone makes that joke. Like, I don't know if I should find that disturbing that everyone makes that joke about me raping the yard. I mean, just raping.
Just like dig a hole.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I give off a rapey vibe, but that's cool. It helps to deter the less damage. The whole low-hanging fruit theory. But, so Trump is being sued by she's a porn star?
She's a porn star.
Okay.
Her name is Stormy Daniels.
My take on this whole administration is say a bunch of bullshit, and then as soon as the fervor dies down around that last bullshit you said, say some more bullshit to create another round of fervor. And then you wind up going full 4 years or even possibly 8 years without really doing anything. Yeah. God willing. Gotta build that wall. It's to me, it's gonna be you're gonna look back on the administration and go, wow, you really didn't do much. But cause a lot of controversy, and that's about it.
It's just been drama.
Yeah, I mean,
it is a reality show.
It is now. Have you ever read? I think it's Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
Do you remember that book? Do you remember?
I had to read it in high school.
So did I. I think I read it in at whatever fucking grade it was.
I probably read the Spark Notes to it.
Fahrenheit 451 is a time when everyone watches TV and books are banned, and then they find people that have books in their houses, and I believe they go to prison and all their books are burned, and there's a woman in there that goes, just burn me with my books.
I don't remember much about it.
There was a part of the book where they were talking about I believe it's like a future United States, and they're talking about, these two women are talking about the presidential candidates and who they're going to vote for, and how it's relayed in the book how much of a joke the election has become. It's become a popularity contest, and it's just ridiculous, how accurate that book is. You know, or how well the book fits. If you haven't read it, I would suggest reading it. It's not really a tough read. You can blow through it pretty quick, but it's almost like impossible to be satirical that accurately. You know what I mean? It's just weird how much art imitates life, or life imitates art. You know what I mean? That whole intrinsic bullshit.
Idiocracy is so on point.
It really is predictable. Stupid is as stupid does, as Mama would often say, right? You can predict it, but it's, and then 1984. You've read that?
Yeah.
You know, the whole Big Brother and double speak, and everyone's got a telescreen, but it's a phone. You know what I mean? It's a total spy device. I forget what country it was, but we couldn't bring our cell phones into any of the bars. I think it was in the Philippines. They just wouldn't let us bring our phones in because they're like, yeah, we're just not gonna let you bring your phones in. And we're like, what? We're using fucking disposable cameras, and back when you had to hit the number like the texting had just started to be a thing. Yes, that was like the time. I don't even think anybody other than like somebody that was super rich had a fucking phone with a camera on it. And even then, you'd take a picture and it would look like fucking blurry Minecraft. Like, it was just terrible. But, it's fucking crazy. Absolutely crazy. Your telescreens don't tell on you. Everybody tells on everybody, you know? Unless, you know, you're Nicholas Cruz and then everybody tells on you and nothing happens. You know who Nicholas Cruz was?
No.
It's the guy that just shot all those kids in that school in Florida.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Shit.
Just added to the long list of flubs by the U.S. government. But it's cool because they're collecting all that data so then they can keep us safe.
Yeah.
So that school shootings don't happen. Oh, wait a minute.
I don't want to talk about that shit.
It hits a nerve.
I don't want to talk about that.
It hits a nerve.
I mean, that's been going on, you know, when I was in high school. We were the elder millennial statesmen. And when we were in high school, they had Columbine, and that was kind of kicked off this generation of school shootings that hasn't stopped.
It's
Is it music? Is it video games?
It's actually sensationalism and Ugandan knuckles, I think.
I just found it.
Yeah.
I mean, D-Way.
Apparently, D-Way is to shoot everyone. And fucking go to a school and shoot everyone.
You are not the queen.
I just found a video game called Big Pharma. A stimulation game. Simulation game.
Stimulation game. I want one of those.
And you build and run a fucking drug factory. It's like, it all has like 3.5 out of 4 stars rating wise. Like,
is it like a tap?
I don't know what that means.
So is this where you have to distribute to, you know, small towns in West Virginia and
the
whole town hooked on opioids and, you know.
What blows my mind is it's not that the fact that nobody's talking about it, is that nobody wants to talk about the correlation of the street level purity of heroin and the timeline of when it became exponentially more pure versus our time in Afghanistan as a country in a military policing action or a war or whatever the fuck it is that we're in. And then you also look at all these pharmaceutical companies are pumping all these opioids to get people hooked. You got to think that there might be something more sinister at play. Like,
Well, for sure.
I'm not a big government conspiracy guy because the government, by and large, is fucking inept. Like, they're just dumb, full of dumb people in dumb bureaucratic roles that are just good at being dumb so that they're able to survive in this big, dumb, nothing moving quagmire of bureaucracy that is the U.S. government. So, I do think that there are rogue elements of said dumb government agencies that are taking advantage of the dumbness that they're surrounded by and are able to blend into, one, and two, use those connections and their clear prowess of having an IQ of more than 75, unlike everybody else they work with in the U.S. government, So they're able to exploit the fact that they're smarter than everyone else around them to enrich themselves.
They get some kind of leverage, or somebody.
That's what I'm saying. Is somebody did something dumb, and now they're beholden to this rogue CIA or ATF or TSA. Not TSA because they're all stupid. Let's be honest. TSA is glorified fucking rent-a-cops.
Stooges, man.
That's all they are. Bunch of cock-grabbing faggots. Anyways, not that there's anything wrong with grabbing cocks or being a faggot. It's just when you fly, you like to not get your dick grabbed.
Come and fly the friendly skies, the
Yeah.
very friendly skies.
Yeah. Come in for your complimentary tube squeeze. Fucking jackasses. But, so you have these guys, I think it was Operation Fast and Furious during the Obama administration with Eric Holder as the Attorney General.
Mm-hmm.
Is that who he was? That's who he was.
So, yeah.
So they had all these guns, and they're like, hey, the ATF was like, we have all these guns. Let's tell you what we should do. We should set up a huge sting operation where we get in contact with the Mexican cartels, and we tell them, hey, we have all these guns. We'll sell you these guns. You can use these guns to commit your atrocities and so on and so forth.
I mean, they just need chainsaws. Those guys,
You know,
go nuts.
or a dull knife. They're not. They don't. They give zero fucks about anything. Apparently.
Man, you see those videos of the cartels like hacking people's heads off and shit. Just brutal.
I remember watching Faces of Death and being like, "Oh my god, this is crazy!" And then like, I watch it now, and a few days ago, I looked it up just because I'm like, let me check it out. But it's like, I'm like watching it, and then I'm like, oh, I should probably check on something else because this is boring the piss out of me. But I remember being riveted. So when you have, I forgot where I was going with that story. God damn it, I keep doing that.
The answer here is if marijuana was legalized, that would solve all our problems.
There's a nice segue. It's not all of our problems, some of our problems.
Mexico legalized pot. America legalized pot. That would ease a lot of crime and violence and open up for criminal justice reform.
There's more money in opiates.
Yeah, and
That's it. That's the only reason.
So where I was going, I got to finish that up. So Operation Fast and Furious. I jump around a lot. It takes me a second to remember what I was saying. I'm sorry to step all over it. We'll go back to marijuana in a second, but I got to finish this. So the ATF sold all these weapons to the cartels, and they go, awesome! And then they go to track the weapons, and they had lost track of all the weapons. We're talking like 100,000 weapons, like high-capacity magazines, military-grade weapons. But I think somebody got a shitload of money for that. And I think that happens way more than anyone wants to admit. It blows me away. And then you come to legalizing of marijuana, whether or not it's going to be legal, why it's not legal, how long it's been protested for, like.
It's moving towards legalization in Mexico.
Yeah, but
they got legal medical now, if I'm not mistaken.
In the 70s, they had the same. There was the same. From what I gather, the same feel of the climate of legalization as there was then as there is now. And there were guys that got sent away for like 50 years to federal prison. Here.
Well, I mean, they already got states legalizing pot. I mean, it's gonna just
it's weird.
Continue.
Do you think it's gonna come to a point where the federal government's just going to step in and be like, yeah, well, fuck you. We've got the army, so you have to fucking toe the line?
No.
No flashpoint there.
They have no incentive because...
Did you know that they pay a certain amount of money per drug arrest from the federal government as a grant to police departments to enforce their drug laws?
it doesn't surprise me.
Then you have to look at the cost of prosecuting everybody for marijuana versus the cost of having another government entity tax it and regulate it and all that shit. If you ever heard of Portugal, their drug policies.
Well, they just decriminalized everything.
And they legalized it, and then they governmentally subsidized it. And, like, if you are addicted to heroin, you just go down to the clinic and they give you your heroin. Like, a doctor comes in with government certified, not going to kill you heroin, but will get you high, and it costs you nothing.
What?
Junkies.
Man, why was I getting fucking high here in Cleveland?
Well, think about it. I mean, would you ever have gotten clean if you had that option? Because you got after you OD'd with fentanyl.
Yeah.
And
were you like blue, dead?
I was dead for 8 minutes. Wow. And I had like 5 shots of Narcan.
Fucking trooper.
Yeah.
Did you know it was fentanyl or no?
No.
They just fucking were like, yeah, here, this shit'll get you high.
Yeah. No, and then I went back and like did it again, but I didn't OD the second time. But
hey, man,
it was good stuff, man.
I've taken like Percocet. I think one time I took an Oxycontin, and I was like, I don't know. Other than my nose itching and me getting a good buzz, I guess I just didn't take the plunge. I knew other guys that were crushing them up and snorting them. Oh my god, that was fucking crazy.
I was doing that in high school, and then
we had a fucking huge gang fight, and they were high as fuck on Oxycontin, and I wasn't. And when I say a huge gang fight, I mean like it was me and 2 other dudes fighting like 16 fucking kids. Like, and when I say kids, put it into perspective.
5th graders. You mean fully grown adults fighting 16 5th graders?
Have you ever seen Step Brothers? No. To put it into perspective,
the poop.
I was 24, maybe 25. The other dude was 25, and then there was one guy there, Jake. So it was me, it was Joe, and it was Jake. Zach was driving. Jake was 32. I was 24, 25. Joe was 24, 25. And Zach was like 23. So we get out. We see we're in the car. We're driving to the fight. And we see like 3 kids. And they're like 16, 17. Probably don't know how to punch, fight really well. But they're resilient, right? So you can hit them a lot and they come back. But, being 24, 25, you know how to throw a punch, cause some devastating pain. Definitely know. I knew how to eat a punch at the time, but I was definitely not ready. None of us were ready.
So you're going into this fight willingly?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
We're not getting into that, but we're going to get into what went down because it's much more entertaining. What it was for was of no consequence.
Going down for a rumble.
So this was like 6 streets down from here. And to take it back, give it some backstory. Joe and Jake and Zach and Jake's dad, who was like 60 or whatever, came over 2 nights prior, and that was the first time we'd met each other. Like, ever. Never met these dudes before. We got along so well, I brought out my bottle of Everclear, and Joe and Jake and me took turns blowing fireballs in the front yard, like which is legit Everclear when you couldn't get it in Ohio. So it was a rarity. And it tasted like shit, and it felt like shit, and you're just like, I'm ingesting fucking Coleman Lanner fluid. But, so, I get a call, hey, blah, 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 okay, I gotta go fight this dude. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go fight him by myself, that's just fucking silly. So I go across the street to Joe's house, and I knock on the door, I'm like, hey, Joe, I know we just met, but you want to go help me beat the shit out of some kids that, did whatever? And they're like, yeah, let's go. So, Zach, you're driving. Jake, Joe, let's go. And we hop in the car. We drive down like 6 streets. and we see the 3 kids, and we're like, oh, there he is. So Joe's like, Zach, pull up on him real quick, and we'll hop out, handle business, hop back in, and go. Zach, I guess, heard differently because he fucking cruised up like we were going to like driving Miss Daisy, like. Like, you drive for FedEx. Like, do you go this slow when you're delivering a box? Like, kid, faster, go faster. So he pulls up, and these kids, like, ran down the street and then turned right. So Zach drove slow as fuck down the street, turned right, get out. And this kid, and I'll give him this, he had quick hands. He hit me. And I could tell he, like, hit me with everything he had, because, like, the look on his face when it was just, like, whap, and I, like, took it. Right on the nose. It didn't make my nose bleed. It didn't break my skin. It didn't break my nose. I turned my head to the side, and I, like, laughed. And I was like, I hope you got more than that. And his eyes, I've never seen such fear in someone's eyes. So I hit him, and all of a sudden, like, I get blindsided on the left and then the right. And I'm like, oh, shit. Now there's, like, 5 kids around me, and they're all punching me. And I'm like, where the fuck did all these kids come from? And I, like, look over at the car, and I see this giant thing come down and go, bam, across the hood. And it was a fucking nunchuck, and there was a dent in the hood of the car.
Oh, Jesus.
From nunchucks, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, and we're like, it's absolute, like, chaos at this point. And I'm just, like, throwing punches. Like, I'm just fucking flinging, like I'm throwing rocks. Like, have you ever seen Leonard Garcia fight? That's how I was throwing punches. I was just fucking winding up and just cracking. And as fast as I would hit him, another one, 2 would step in, and, like, first it was 3-on-3, then it was 3-on-5, then it was 3-on-10, then it was 3-on-15. It was about 15 kids
just, like,
throwing rocks, bricks, using branches, bats, nunchucks, all this shit, and we're fucking still beating the shit out of them. Well, I wind up getting tackled or tripping or whatever, and thank God none of these kids knew anything about fighting, because as soon as somebody hits the ground, you stomp them out. That's just how it works. So I'm on the ground because I can't get up because there's kids all over me, which, if, you know...
I mean, that'd be terrifying.
It would be
Enough
awful.
Kids is just...
So, I yell out, Jake, and then all of a sudden, like, a bowl, Jake just knocks all, like, I just see Jake just, boom, and he, like, knocked all these fucking kids out of it, because Jake was a little bit bigger than me. But he just, boom, and he fucking just, like, I guess he ran over from somewhere and just fucking just busted up every fucking kid that was around me. And, like, I stood up at that point, and I'm like, man, I'm fucking winded. And I'm like, I'm looking at Jake, and we're both breathing heavy. I'm like, you ready to go? And they're like, where the fuck? We're both like, where's Joe at? And we're like, hey, Joe. And then all of a sudden, like, we hear a racket. And through this giant line of shrubs comes Joe with another kid, and he's like, throws him, and he hits the ground, and we're like, and he's like, yeah, what's up? And we're like, you ready? He's like, yeah, let's go. So we get back in the car, and Jake and Joe and Zach all have 2 yellow fucking trails dripping out of their nose. They had snorted Oxycontin like 2 seconds before I got there. That's why they're all ready to go fight. And Zach's fucking punk ass didn't get out of the goddamn car not once. But, yeah, it was fucking crazy.
Nice.
But that was my experience with Oxycontin. Because they gave me one after that. They're like, you're fucking crazy, man. That was fucking great. That was the best thing ever. We're so glad you live across the street. I was like, the fuck is wrong with you guys? The fuck is wrong with me?
Oh.
And then, like, 2 years later at a party, I guess the kids were bragging about it, and a girl that knew Joe texted him, and Joe showed back up and beat the kid's ass again for bragging that he beat him or some shit. Or it was Jake or Zach, or maybe it was Dave, because Dave was there, and we're like, come on, Dave. And he's like, no, I got warrants, man. I can't go. I'm like, that's fucking lame, but whatever. All right, Dave, you fucking jerk. Sit here on the porch, even though you just met me 2 days ago. Everybody else is ready to go. But Portugal legalized everything. And then they governmentally subsidized it. And the revenue they made from people still buying different formerly illicit drugs that are now illicit in the United States but not in Portugal anymore. They use that to actually have a funded like research into recovery from those addictions, and then they applied the research to recovery, and like they don't have a problem with junkies anymore. Like there's one guy I read, this was 2 or 3 years ago, and it was a guy that was like 45, and he's like, nobody else does heroin anymore. It's kind of a bummer. I go down to the clinic and I get my high, and then I got no one to hang out with. And I was like, I mean, I guess life is terrible. I don't
Maybe
get it.
if you take away the culture that kind of, sucks everybody in. I mean, it's a culture, it's an environment, right? Where it's like, if you get sucked into being a heroin addict, then you're in a realm of other people who feed that, right? I don't know.
The crabs in a pot theory. You ever heard that one? So if you throw a single crab, if you want to boil crabs, you have to boil them alive. It's the way it works. Like, okay, so if you throw one crab in a pot, it'll swim to the top. If you throw them in one at a time, they'll swim to the top. But if you put them in all at once, they'll hold each other down, and then all of them will die. Because that's just how crabs work, I guess. So you're suggesting it's a crab in a pot theory. I'm suggesting it's something different. It's something different than that, but also the same as that. Like, once you're in, it's a vicious cycle to get out. Fair enough. But I've never been addicted to heroin, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
But I would think that it has to do with you can't do it. You know how to do it. So what's wrong with it? Oh, it's just bad. Just don't do it. Just don't. Just say no. Like, okay, so you smoke weed. I'm not dead. Must be bullshit about everything else, because there's nothing out there. There's no information out there. There are no studies. There's nothing. So I could see marijuana being a gateway drug in that aspect, but not really. I have never gone to go buy weed from somebody and been like, hey, do you want to buy some heroin too? Do you want to buy some pills?
No, I mean, okay, so for me, personally, because I've crossed that threshold where I'm a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in recovery, but, like, I will always be a drug addict. Like, there's something fucking wrong with me to, like, think that shoving a needle in my arm was okay, and I did it for how many years. For me, like, I don't even know, like, what time, or how many, I tried to get sober a few times, and I was sober for a few weeks, and then somebody was like, oh, I have some weed, do you want to smoke some weed? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, why not? And I started smoking weed. An hour later, I was at the bar drinking. Hour after that, doing heroin again. Like, it was just progressive. And, like, it started with the weed. Like, it does something to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that for everybody. Like,
yeah.
I think weed is fucking great for most people. But for people like me,
not so much.
No. Weed's fucking terrible.
Do you think it's weed, or do you think it's any substance?
It's any substance.
So then you could make the same argument for, would you say coffee? Like, do you drink coffee? Do you take caffeine?
I have, like, the same kind of thought process for it. Like, I can't quite function.
But you're able to not fucking 3 hours from your first sip of goddamn latte mainlining. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know.
But you're saying it's like, are you saying it's more of, it's the same process you go through, but I don't know, less intense?
Yeah.
Plateau, I guess. I don't know. It's fucking crazy. Like, I'll quit smoking weed and I get crabby. I stop eating, which maybe I should probably quit smoking weed, fucking lose some weight. But my dreams get more intense, so sometimes I wake up more exhausted. Sometimes I have, bad dreams, but...
Did you get the paranoia?
From not smoking or from smoking?
From smoking.
Yeah, but that's more of an intrinsic thing. Like, that's more of like, I'm able to recognize it for what it is, instead of like when I was first smoking, being like, oh my god, did I just repeat myself? Yeah, like, did I just say that? Like, yeah, I remember being at the dining room table high as a fucking kite, just like stoned, and my parents would ask something, I would say it, and be like, oh my god, shut up, stop talking, you sound like a fucking idiot. Everybody knows you're high. Everyone knows you're high. It's going to be the end of the world. They're going to call the cops, and the cops are, what are the cops going to do? What are the cops, and I like run myself through that. Not every time I get stoned, but like if I hit a dab, do you know what a dab is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I smoke a dab, it's like I have to, I guess, like, ride the paranoia out. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
burn it out all the way. Like, play out the scenario. Like, oh my god, I'm so high. Yeah, but it's great. Like, why are you having fucking palpitations? Yeah, like, chill out. Just. But I think that comes from the military standpoint of, like, I'm getting shot at. Okay, so breathe. Like, remember, don't hold your breath. Shoot back more than they shoot at you. Like, that kind of helps out.
I didn't start getting the paranoia from weed until after I started shooting heroin.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to that, but I would think that heroin might inhibit some less than healthy mental reaction. I don't know. Like, it might warp your
neurotransmitter that,
there you go.
Suppresses
yeah.
something that I don't understand.
Yeah, some of your betas might have gotten blocked.
Yeah, exactly.
But
some betas.
But I think in this country, it's a problem with addiction because it's just simply, there's too much money in the current system that's like...
It's the easiest way to make a buck.
There's no way to expect the system to fix the system. Like, it's just not... The system will never fix the system because it's the system. The system only cares about continuing itself.
Drugs equal money. And I was just here, I am part of like some like 12-step groups or whatever, and someone was talking, they're friends with a counselor, they're a counselor at rehab downtown, and he's a counselor and he's gone through the recovery process himself as well. And he was talking about, like, what it's like to be on the other side of it now. Like, the rehab he's working in, like, they're not all about, like, making people better. It's just they're making their numbers better to get more funding. And it's like, okay, their success rate is based on how many people they put through intensive outpatient programs, and they just push them through. It doesn't mean they're necessarily ready to be put back in the world, and like, they're like, the success rate is just getting them through fucking 4 weeks of intense treatment, only for them to come back and go through it again. Yeah. Like,
it's a typical government scheme. Like, when I was in the Marines, it was, okay, here's our supply budget for the quarter. Okay, we're $8,000 under the budget. Okay, so we have to blow $8,000. Like, and we would literally blow. Dude, it was a fucking private first class in the Marines with a goddamn business card holder that was gold plated and fucking business cards. I have no fucking private in the Marine Corps has no fucking business having government made business cards and a business card holder. For fucking what reason? Other than to meet the budget. Order a shitload of pens that you wind up selling or whatever. Like, there's so much in it, and it's called fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's every government program out there. Every single one of them. Blow out your budget so that you can get more funding. Once you get more funding, you just try to get more funding. And then more funding and more funding. It's the absolute opposite of good business. Like, if I were to open a business, I would want to increase my profit decrease my fucking expenditures.
You should probably play that big pharma game. You might be good at it.
I would probably be great at it, but like I said, GTA 5 has pretty much sucked me dry for the past couple of days, so I think I'm going to rejoin the ranks of society and become a human being again and try to continue to live my life in balance and harmony with everything. But
you see about Kevin Love, he was speaking out against, or for mental illness awareness.
Yeah.
You know,
he was having panic attacks.
Panic attack in game, and you know, try to destigmatize it and make people aware. I think that's positive.
It is. Somebody sent me a clip. A friend of mine from the police academy. We were probably both the most sarcastic assholes in the class. Like, for real. Like, we didn't care. We realized it was bullshit. And we're like, yeah, we're going to try to get jobs as cops, but both of us are too smart for that. And I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination, but some cops are just so dumb.
Yeah, it's true.
It just really is. It's hard to get past that. But he sent me a clip, and it's an Always Sunny clip, and it's Dennis and Dee and Frank Reynolds all go to this closed down mental facility in Philadelphia. And Deandra talks about, the Reagan administration, they just cut all the funding, so they just closed us down and turned all the crazy people in the streets. And Dennis goes, what? We need to fucking get more funding and keep these people in here. They're crazy. We can't have crazy people in the streets. It's crazy. And she goes, well, then we're going to have to pay more taxes. What? I'm not going to pay any more taxes. I pay so many taxes already. It's like, well, we're going to have to keep all these crazy people in the streets? What? No, we need to have more funding. And it's kind of like the same. That's the exact problem with mental health in this country. And that's why you have such a high rate of illegal drug use. Is number one, it's illegal. I know whenever I get a chance to not pay the tax man or find another loophole to exploit when I do my taxes, I'm like, yeah, fuck Uncle Sam, fuck the government. I get to keep more. Yeah. You know? Who the fuck doesn't? That's part of what makes you smoke weed, is it because it's rebellious. Like, when you're in high school.
I mean, I don't need to smoke weed to want to cheat taxes.
That's what I'm saying, but that's like... That's the American attitude. Yeah.
Programs that help support, people's well-being, but...
Is it going to?
I want my money.
Yeah. Is it going to? It's not going to.
No.
It's not.
All that money is flushed down.
Just burned. No, I would be less upset if it was just lit on fire. But the reality of it is, the majority of that money goes to select few people, but we'll get into that on a different podcast, because that's a totally different rabbit hole, I think. We could go on for hours fucking chewing that one. But, so you have the rehab programs are not set up for the rehab-e. The patients, they don't give a shit about. It's just the numbers. It's like...
Is that always true, though?
Yeah.
Because you meet people who are, people that work in these facilities that care.
Yeah.
They're people that care.
Yeah.
But they're not in charge.
The other thing is those people aren't dumb bureaucratic morons. They actually give a fuck. They actually want to be there. They want to make a positive difference. And the middle management types with the middle management IQ of fucking 74.5 are part of the machine that chews up people that actually care and either breaks their spirit or they get run out of the business or they go into private practice. They go somewhere where there's money. Or, God help them, they continue to fight the good fight, do the good Lord's work, knowing they're not making a difference. But it's
got to make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and it's with marijuana being illegal, you're losing out on all that tax revenue, or regardless of where it goes to or what it goes to do.
Colorado's doing great.
Colorado is doing fantastic.
You know, and all these states that are legalizing pot are in the black. You know, these aren't like struggling states. They're taking up a progressive model.
Yep.
And they're doing well. Not to say that Washington and California don't have, you know, tragic rates of homelessness, but that has to do with tech companies moving in.
Yeah.
Property
value
going up,
through the
building
roof.
condos everywhere.
Isn't that gentrification?
Yeah.
Isn't that what that is?
Yeah.
I always get gentrification and gerrymandering confused, even though one's a G.
Gerrymandering and gentrification.
Yeah.
Are
One's
there
a G and one's a
similarities?
J, isn't it?
No,
Or are
they're
they both
G's.
Both GE. That's why I get fucked up on it.
They both have a few syllables, like 3 or 4 syllables.
Yeah.
Gentrification.
They're spelled close. Yeah, it's fine.
They both have 5 syllables, right? So, I mean, there you go.
That's source of all confusion. It's a fucking Fibonacci sequence. Fuck. Ha.
Yeah.
So if you have...
It's gerrymandering the distribution of wealth to keep people away.
Did you smoke weed before this?
No, I just have a naturally loose mind.
I'm glad you didn't say butthole. This is fucking
Well,
me.
that too.
That's not natural at all.
I think I have some puppy pads in the closet over there.
Some puppy tag. Puppy. That reminds me, we were watching this show, Slut Ever, and they were doing this thing about lifestyle slaves.
Yeah.
So you have like a dominatrix. And
Yeah.
This master-slave relationship, and she just has this person that comes and does whatever the fuck she tells him to. She organizes his life. You know, he's very submissive. And they just have
His name was Sad Puppy.
his name is Puppy.
Sad
Or
puppy.
Or puppy. I don't know.
Pious Puppy. I don't know.
Pious puppy. Have you shout out to the or we'll give a plug to the Chip Chipperson podcast. Have you listened to any of it lately?
No.
There's one called Chippy's Mittens, and it's about his dog. It's a tragic story of Chippy's Mittens and playing fetch with a stick in the street. And, well, you can imagine the rest of it, but I don't know what episode it is, but I'm sure you can look it up. There's probably a compilation of different pets Chipperson has owned, but it's pretty funny in the context of puppies. But
Have you ever heard of puppies in the tub?
no.
You know, like, if you try to give a bunch of puppies a bath, they're all going to jump out of the tub. If you stretch out your butthole and try to put some balls in the butthole, they're not going to stay. Unless it's Alex's butthole, then
They're still not going to stay. It could be basketballs and they'd still fall out.
Years of practice. You got to gauge up, you know, like.
Yeah. Lots of smelly bedposts.
Start with.
Like Mr. Slave. Is that what you're trying to segue into? Was the
Mr.
fucking
Slave.
What was the name of that episode of South Park?
Where he shoves like
Or
Britney
he's
Spears up his ass.
no, it was Paris Hilton.
Paris Hilton.
He sits down on her and she's up his ass. But what was
There's
the
a
name
fucking
of it?
gerbil up there.
Yeah.
What's the gerbil's name?
I can't remember, but there was a fucking frog too, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
and he's like, oh, you must escape.
Lemmywinks.
Lemmywinks. Lemmywinks. There's
Oh
only
my
one way.
God damn, dude.
It was
Those
like
guys
goes
are
an adventure through the
fucking geniuses. Or like, do you remember the episode when they talked about when fucking Randy was on Wheel of Fortune and people that annoy you, and he says on Wheel of Fortune he yells out niggers, and then everybody like the whole episode they're calling him like nigger guy, but like they say it like 300 times in the show like on TV.
They did,
and it went out, and like all the way till the end of the episode. Not like there was a show called the Zion Coptic Hour, which no one will get the reference to, but they were a religion from Jamaica that thought that their sacrament was weed. So they had a public access show that got cut after like the first 30 seconds because it was a dude just firing up a giant cone and like blowing out a cloud of smoke and saying, "Welcome to the Zion Coptic Hour." But like, then you have like the toothpaste fucking colors on the screen. It always reminds me of Aquafresh because I remember seeing a special about how they use toothpaste to send out color television. Like it was used, the process of broadcasting in color, they somehow figured out that toothpaste somehow worked. I don't know, man. I'm like an autistic. I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up.
Do you mean
I don't know how they did
like it. The picture of toothpaste?
No, I'm talking about like the shit in the tube.
So they rub the toothpaste out in the tube?
I have no idea how they did it.
Fluoride?
I have no idea. That would be great though. Fuck, man.
It adds to the mind control.
It does.
Because fluoride refracts
they said that
the messages from the government.
Because, man. Fucking degenerate hour. That's what the name of this podcast should be.
The CIA, the FBI.
CIA, man.
The NSA. I mean...
You ever heard of Gary Webb? Have I ever talked about Gary Webb?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay, Gary Webb was an author, wrote a series of articles about the CIA connection of cocaine, crack epidemic in California.
You're talking about, was it
Rick Ross? Okay,
Freeway Rick James?
Freeway Ricky Ross. So there's this big fat slob of a man that is either currently or not currently on life support.
Probably drug overdose, probably fentanyl.
Big fat fucking piece of shit. Stole Rick Ross's name from while he was in prison, and since Rick Ross was in prison for as long as he was, it was past the statute of limitations for him to be able to sue Rick Ross, the rapper, not the real Rick Ross. The real Rick Ross wanted to sue the fake Rick Ross for restitution, for stealing his fucking name, and the judge was like, yeah, sorry, time's out. I don't get it, but I don't like that rapper.
Yeah,
he's a former prison guard.
He's a prison guard.
Yeah, he was a prison. He was a prison guard.
Man. That is a low.
He was a prison guard, and he won Employee of the Year or Employee of the Month or something like that a few times. What kind of
piece of shit do you have to be to be like Employee of the Month prison guard? I mean, imagine the fucking.
You got to be a snitch, man. You got to be busting a lot of dudes. You got to be looking at a lot of booty holes. Because that's known as the prison pocket. It's where you carry around shit that you don't want found. Just stick it in your butthole.
Well, Alex knows all about that.
Gauged out.
We're not telling that story.
Well,
it's like
I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking about fucking TSA and.
Look, I'm an international drug smuggler.
You're a butt
chugger.
Yeah, There's a viral video of him drinking an entire fifth of vodka, but not through his mouth, instead of giving it over to
butt
TSA. Like that lady, the lady that drank the entire bottle of cognac or whatever the fuck it was. Yeah, she TSA was like, no, you can't take that on. So she was standing in line for security, like where they stopped her at that point, and was like drinking shots of it and was offering it to people in line. Like, no, I'm not going to give it to him. I'm drinking it all right now. And then not be a problem whatsoever on the flight. Right.
Butt chugging.
Have you seen the butt water video?
Butt water.
Water.
I have not.
The guy sticks a garden hose up his butt while it's like shooting out water. Mm-hmm. And he pulls it out and he farts out the water.
Ugh.
It's fucking
that's
great.
Healthy. Definitely healthy for.
Well, it's an enema. I mean, it flushes you out. You never know.
But are enemas even really good for you? I look at it this way, man.
I've never had one.
I've never had one either, but I can't imagine that would be okay, because at what point in nature, like, okay, hunter-gatherer sense of the word, as a human being, at what point in nature am I going to have that happen, where I'm not going to be killed?
Where you have to take the time and...
No, where like there's gonna
Or
be
something in
some
your butt.
like at what point am I gonna be able? Am I gonna like go to somewhere and have them shoot water in my ass? Like other than me like holding open my ass in under a waterfall.
Well, I'm sure once they established civilization, and certainly by Greek and Roman times, they were doing all sorts of things in the butt.
True.
You know, they
Most
have
of it was sex
An
between men.
aqueduct, butt sex, aqueduct in the butt. I mean that's what enema.
But I mean
in
that's like a low flow
Latin.
enema.
Enema in Latin stands for
At that point, you're
aqueduct
just
in
it's
butt.
Does it?
Aqueduct butt.
Yeah.
Sounds like a superhero off Shin Chan.
I was gonna say that. Aqueduct butt in a man.
Oh, did somebody step on a duck?
It's such a great line from Caddyshack. When he's dancing with the judge's wife. How'd you like to earn $12 the hard way? It's like, you're no gentleman, and no doorknob either. Like, I don't get that. Because he grabbed his arm?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. I can't even.
That movie's fucking retarded.
there's the
It's so
best
good.
movie that there has ever been, other than the Ghostbusters movies. Are there three? There are three Ghostbusters,
If you
right?
include the most recent all-female cast.
No, then definitely just two. I don't include that one in
Have you
even
seen
being
it?
a movie. No, I have no desire to see it.
Didn't you watch it?
I did watch it.
What'd you think?
I thought it was okay.
But
I thought it was okay.
were you?
Was I high? No.
No, not were you high. Were you sitting on a bedpost? No.
Well,
were you?
kind of.
Were you stretching?
No, I didn't think it was bad.
Just touching his cat's balls.
Oh, that time?
Checking for cancer.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about
So,
Oh, Oscar, you have cancer.
but you think the jury was led by the fact that the jury of your mind was led by the fact that you'd seen the Ghostbusters previously with Bill Murray?
that. Nostalgia?
Yeah. Like, did you find yourself constantly going, it was funnier when they did this scene, or it was funnier when they did that scene?
No, I didn't compare anything. I saw it for what it was. It's like, this is just, a fucking silly action movie that isn't meant to be taken seriously. I liked some of the special effects. I thought it was kind of neat. I thought some parts were a little bit funny. I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was better than the original Ghostbusters. But I mean, like, for for killing time and like I'm just gonna watch a fucking movie. I'm not gonna be like too cynical about it.
Yeah.
Like some people are.
See, I can't watch it. I wouldn't be able to sit through it and watch it. I would get like if
Is
it
that
were
because it's sacrilege to you?
not
or is it because you hate
necessarily
women?
sacrilege. It's probably some of the
Definitely.
misogyny definitely bleeding through here.
Definitely.
To tear down that fourth wall. It's not that I don't like women, because I don't really. They bother me. No, I'm kidding.
You don't think women can be funny, is that it? I mean, this whole thing.
She's hilarious. No, there was an episode of South Park about that, where women can't be smart. No, she's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, it's do something fucking original. Why reboot Ghostbusters?
Well, I mean, they reboot a lot of stuff, and I just saw it because I like Ghostbusters stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just like it was free.
Hey, if it were free,
Like,
I
I
would
just-
definitely be high as fuck falling
I
asleep
just
to that.
bootlegged it, and just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
And I didn't hate it. Of course, you
Did
had
you
all
see
those
the interview?
Like, what
Did you guys see the interview?
I did. I don't remember it though.
was that Japanese movie?
No. Seth Rogen and
Oh.
James Franco.
I hate Seth
I
Rogen.
remember his-
Yeah. You know, like
we
his.
watched it together.
Did we? Not the interview.
Did you? Now the other question I have is: did you get the free version, or did you watch it like legit on like Netflix or some other thing? Because I remember watching it. It was like I just got in my car, and I had Bluetooth, and I just gotten the iPhone 6 Plus, So I set it, like I used the belt clip on the rear view mirror. And I seriously rolled the windows down in my car and turned the Bluetooth volume all the way up. And it was like being in the theater. Because the screen on the phone was fucking huge. I moved up from like... No, dude. The iPhone 6 Plus was like... It was like a fucking tablet. It was like a mini iPad. But that was like the best idea I'd ever had.
I mean, you know, if you were high enough,
Were you
sure it was
stoned? Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, I was high as fuck.
Yeah. Surround sound in my car, watching my fucking phone.
Dude, me and Janina sat in the driveway and watched it. It was great because it was like you put your seat back and you could watch the movie and smoke a cigarette, smoke some weed, you know, whatever. But I remember watching it because somebody sent me an email with a link that I clicked to watch it. And it was part of that whole Sony hack thing. Like when North Korea hacked Sony, it was like, no, don't watch this.
Yeah, whatever.
I consider it my civic duty to watch it. Getting back to if it's illegal, to challenge authority and to challenge policy and to challenge everything on every level of the government, I think is, in essence, what it means to be an American. To constantly have that rebellious attitude because we are founded by a bunch of rebels.
It's Constitution, you know, we don't want, you know, one person or one branch of government to have too much power. Things need to roll over a little bit, and you know, it's pretty locked in right now. I mean, you might have Republicans in power, but if you look at, you know, the people making the money,
I think it's more
the same players.
I think it's more they wanted it to be like, all right, we're going to write this thing on paper. We're going to make this new country, and we don't want it to be what it has become.
It's ever changing. It's the
I think
experiment.
It is the grand experiment, but I think they would be, the founding fathers would be less than thrilled with where we're at currently.
Well,
then again, they would be
all part of the process. They couldn't even imagine.
Dude, their fucking brains would melt if I showed them an iPhone 6 with a fucking Bluetooth car. Like they would have a stroke.
They were all like Freemasons and Illuminati, so they knew something. You know, they had some occult insight into how, you know.
But did they?
I mean, I like to think that sometimes
it would be cool.
And
I'm not saying that they weren't, you know, back in the day before you could fucking Google shit, they weren't like this shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like now, there's way too much information out there for anybody to be like, oh yeah, we've got all the we would have gotten the secrets by now. I think they would have been doxxed by now if there were any like legit secrets. Like
I don't know, man. People want to stay hidden. Like really hidden, and they're not stupid about it. You can stay hidden.
But that's the same, like the Italian mafia. For the most part, it's dead. Are there still some elements there? Sure, there's always gonna be. But it's the constant yin and the yang, man. Like Japan, they tolerate the Yakuza, and it's known that the Yakuza is there. And when I was in the Marines, there were 3 Marines that weren't allowed off base because if they left the base, the Yakuza would get them, and they would either be killed or ransomed. And the government was like, yeah, you're just not allowed to leave the base ever until your time's up and you get rotated back to the States. Enjoy the base for the next 2 years, you know. But like Japan considers that to be acceptable to deal with them, to have the Yakuza, because the Yakuza is that little bit of black and the all white, and then in the Yakuza, who are majority all black, there's that little dot of white. Or did I say it wrong? I'm pretty sure I said that.
No, you're right.
But
it's like Shamu.
Yeah. And Free Willy, you know that
like
weird eye, that weird eye on Willy.
Eating people's dicks off and shit.
Till it come.
Till I come.
Yeah. Eating some dicks.
You're so
With
proud of
his
yourself
butthole.
right now. I made it funny.
I forget who said it. There was somebody asked me. I had not gotten a lot of sleep the night before for some reason, and somebody else was complaining, or somebody was complaining at work, like, I didn't get any sleep. It was like, and somebody in a quiet tone goes, I wonder why that was. And I was like, probably because his boyfriend kept farting on his dick. it was, because the person that said it was like, I wonder why they didn't get a lot of sleep. They were so looking for gossip. And I gave him, like, the worst possible. Like, yeah, his boyfriend kept farting on his dick. Clearly, dude wasn't gay. Well, he could have been. But he didn't give off that vibe. But the thought of him, he was a very devout Christian. So the thought of him having a boyfriend, one, and B, having his dick in his ass, so then the dude was farting on it all night was kind of funny.
Makes it better.
Farting on the dick always better. I don't know about that. That was not on a dick. That was just on a chair.
Felching.
There was a guy named the Professor that would go down to Christie's all the time, and he smelled like piss, and he graded papers at the table.
What?
And he would go up to the stage and give the girls a root beer barrel candy. Like, that was, instead of giving them a dollar, he would give them a candy. Most of the time, I would have to step in between the stripper and the Professor because he was about to get beat up. And he was a frail old guy. But I remember one of the girls came over to me after talking to him and was like, he was telling me about snorkeling. And I was like, that's pretty fucking gross. Snorkeling is the same as felching. Right? You have to explain what's felching for the folks out there.
It's you suck cum through a straw on somebody's asshole.
That is indeed the exact same definition of snorkeling.
It seemed that snorkeling would be the opposite, where you blow cum through a straw.
But do you really...
But that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
Technically, you'd have to breathe it, which would leave you all kinds of chances to catch all kinds of good...
What was the one we came up with? The strawberry lollipop? The strawberry popsicle?
Oh, cherry popsicle. So, what was it?
What about a chocolate dipped rose?
No. Okay, so we're trying to figure out...
It's a prolapsed asshole with shit all over it.
Oh, nice.
So this is totally a TMI thing, but like, so what is it called when you go down on a girl and she's on her period?
The Red Wings.
The Red Wings. So,
well,
when you accidentally do it to yourself, so you're getting fucked, you start your period, and then you go to suck the dick, and then and then you get.
Of yum.
So we call it the cherry popsicle.
You should call it the raspberry slushy.
That's good.
Or the raspberry
Yeah, we
creamsicle.
couldn't figure out because we were like, is there a word for that? You know, it's like...
It's fucking disgusting.
Speaking of disgusting, when I shot that raccoon back,
Yeah.
when I shot him, he blew a blood raspberry out of his mouth. It's weird. It's really weird.
Like his brains?
No. Just like blood started, because I shot him in the head, and like blood starts coming out of like their ears and their nose and their mouth, because it just... That's what blood does when you get shot in the head. I'm sure it'll happen to me if I get shot in the head. The other thing is a human being gets shot, if a guy gets shot in the head, they pop wood. That's a really weird thing.
Is that a fact?
When people shoot heroin, they get boners.
But
they can't.
Yeah, but getting shot in the head.
If you get found unconscious somewhere, the first thing they do
is check
EMTs,
for a boner.
They check for
a boner.
Yeah, if you got a hard on,
pulse.
Yeah.
They don't even check for a
well,
pulse.
That's how
it's
they.
like, does he have a boner?
Well, that's how they know whether or not you're gonna have fucking. What is it? Encephalitis when your brain swells.
Really? If you have a boner?
If you hit your head, because your blood, as soon as you have any trauma to your head, your blood pressure goes through the fucking roof and your pulse rate. So that's why if you bump your head and you get dizzy, that's a concussion. So then your blood pressure goes through the sky, through the roof. So if you bump your head and you get a cut from it, you will bleed like a motherfucker. That's why you see a dude that gets punched in the eyebrow and his eyebrow gets split. Blood will oftentimes come pouring out of it. And you're like, oh my God, he's dying. He's bleeding to death in there. And you're just like, oh, that little cut, all that blood. So they check you. They check a woman if she's got whatever a girl gets wet, I guess. Give her a little checkaroo.
The puddle.
Yeah. And they check a guy for a boner when you get knocked out.
They just like.
But, so that I shot the raccoon and he started doing his whole death rodeo thing. But then, like, his breathing started slowing down and, like, I hear a gurgle and, like, it's just like when you would stick your straw into your milk at lunch and blow bubbles and it has that weird, almost like they're like box shapes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the bubbles are not round bubbles like you would with a bubble pipe, but they're almost like acute angle.
Right.
It's weird, a weird shape to them. Not that I looked for that long. I was kind of like, whoa, wow, that's
Square
weird.
bubbles.
Yeah, almost. It was weird. The outside of the bubbles were round, but when they connected together, it was more like symmetrical. It's weird. Really odd.
Were you high?
Probably. No, I had just woken up, so I
Square
was
bubbles,
definitely
man.
high.
I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
You seen that episode of SpongeBob where like he's trying to give Squidward a bubble blowing lesson or something? And
No.
Squidward keeps on blowing square bubbles and they just fall down.
SpongeBob.
Me and Daniel had a great conversation about SpongeBob, and I was like, he's like, oh, that makes sense. He's like, all the characters are named, and he's like, Mr. Krabs, he's a crab. And I was like, yeah, and SpongeBob, he's a sponge. And he goes, yeah. He goes, Squidward is a squid. I was like, yeah, but what about Gary? And he's like,
Hey,
Gary.
Patrick.
I was like, yeah, Gary the snail.
Does Patrick have a last name? Is it like Patrick
Star.
Starford? Yeah, Patrick
it?
Star.
Is it?
Sandy the squirrel.
Sandy Cheeks.
Sandy Cheeks.
Sandy Cheeks. Yeah, Daniel definitely corrected me on that one.
I know my fucking SpongeBob. They're about to air their last episode.
Yeah, well, you know.
Thank God. No.
I mean, you know.
SpongeBob is fucking good.
Yeah, but after
I
a
love
while, she gets
SpongeBob.
worn out.
The
Like,
movie was
Simpsons-
great because I was high as fuck.
I
from it.
don't think I saw the movie.
SpongeBob was great back in the day. I mean, they just wear out material. Like, The Simpsons should have ended 10, 15 years ago.
We had a running cadence of SpongeBob that we called when we were on base. So, like, calling cadences. There's a ladybug on the ceiling. Anyways, it's good luck. I don't know how the fuck it got in here, but
Flew out of my asshole.
yeah. Fucking C-130. But calling cadences, you know, you call something, so I would call, you know, it would be the person running to the left of the platoon and the platoon running. So there's, you know, a little yellow birdie with a little yellow bill, and then they would copy it, little yellow birdie with a little yellow bill. Landed on my windowsill. I lured him in with a piece of bread. And then I crushed his little fucking head. Blood and guts. But we called the cadence, it was SpongeBob, and, like, we got, like, the base, whatever the fuck, Sergeant Major, one of the crusty old guys that was in charge of the base, and he pulled his car over and screamed at all of us and said we were making a mockery of his Marine Corps, and if he ever heard us calling cadence like a bunch of faggots like that again, he would cut all of our dicks off and make us eat them. And we never called that cadence again. And we all tried to not laugh really hard. And then every Thursday you do field day formations, and Marines are like the biggest group of wise asses and stand-up comics and hecklers like there are. So every Thursday you have formation for field day, and the gunnery sergeant of the company comes over and he yells at everybody and says, your rooms are nasty, clean them, blah, 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 whatever. So he goes, the general at the time was a general named General Maccabee. I forget what his rank was. He might have been a lieutenant general, whatever. He gets up, Gunny gets up, and he goes, General Maccabee's coming back to the base tomorrow, and everybody's like, well, yeah, welcome back. No one gives a shit, but everybody's cheering, like, overly cheering and clapping, just being a bunch of dicks, because that's all it is. It's just a bunch of dicks. And he goes, what do you think the first thing he's going to do when he gets back is? And somebody from the back yelled out, Mrs. Maccabee. He fucking was, shut the fuck up.
That's good.
But General Maccabee would make it, he would drive around the base with a camera. And if he saw something fucked up, he would take a picture of it and find out who's in charge of that spot of the base. And he would just send an email from the base General Maccabee to whoever it was with a picture of what was fucked up and not say anything else. He would just send him a picture of the fucked up shit. So everybody would, have to, everything would have to be, the grass would be perfectly cut, But we're on ship watching a movie, and it was the movie Troy, and it comes to the end when Achilles is getting shot with all those arrows. And right when the last of the arrows hits him in the chest, and it's the third arrow that hits him in the chest, somebody yells out, 3 darts is too much, quoting Ace Ventura, but, like, it killed. Everybody in the room was fucking laughing, like, the mentality, like, everything that you did was being made fun of the entire time, whether it was enjoyed as a good movie or not. Everybody was making fun of it, talking through the whole thing. Somebody was trying to make a speech, and somebody would fucking talk during the middle of it or say something funny. The comedic timing in the Marines was fucking phenomenal.
Sounds just like fucking working in the kitchen.
That's exactly
like
what it is, yeah.
Same kind of...
Except these guys probably had killed people and don't have a record for it. But, unlike most kitchens. But,
just sounds like a regular day at work.
Yeah, we were on for a safety briefing. It was the last day of Team Marine, which is a week long. It's a 40-hour class on how to recognize if somebody's going to kill themselves or not, and how to prevent it. Because it's a big thing. So they make everybody sit, like everybody in the Marine Corps for 40 hours in a week. You have to sit in a classroom and just listen to people talk about suicide. If you never wanted to kill yourself before, like, do 2 hours and you're like, fuck this shit. So everybody's settling down, but they're still talking. So the sergeant major gets up and goes, shut the fuck up. And everybody gets, like, dead silent. Everyone goes quiet. And then all of a sudden, again, from the back somewhere, somebody yells out, Matt Damon. And it was right after Team America came out. And everybody, including the sergeant major, fucking laughed because we'd all watched it. It was like on base. It was when we were not on a normal base. It was like a training base. It was like shitty. Like, think of it like a house versus a double wide trailer type of thing. Like, the house would be a normal base. The triple wide trailer, double wide trailer would be the base that we were on. So they would do movies for free at a movie theater, which was just the side of a building, and they would project on it, which was pretty cool. But, all right, I think that brings us to the end of the podcast. Legalize marijuana, right?
Mm.